son's name. Amen. All right. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get rolling. And you can continue to comment in the comment section. Kevin will be able to see that as we go. I will not, because I will be on my PowerPoint. Let me shrink this down so I can see. All right, so we're going to be talking about the stress response tonight. Next week, we are just on the tail end, like last final touches on getting the stress model course ready to go for people to get. That's going to be another pay what you can afford model. If you're not familiar with the dance model and you're totally new to this and just kind of jumped on, we do have a free book, ebook on the dance model, and then that comes with a course that you can just pay what you can afford for that. And then we're launching our next pay what you can afford course next week, and we're just introducing that a little bit, teasing that, getting some prep work done tonight, and next week we will be giving a full intro of that course and that model. And essentially the primary verse that is based on is for we walk by faith, not by sight. And you can see this model on the right is what we're working with, and just how stress leads us down one or two paths, and walking by faith versus walking by sight, and all the different outcomes that result from that. So let's talk a little bit about our stress response and why are things stressful? Why can't I handle certain things where I can handle other things? Or I don't understand why someone else can't handle something that I can handle, and they don't understand why they can handle something that I can't handle. So why do we have different stress responses, and what is that based on? Our stress response is primarily subconsciously driven by stored experience from past events. So my past experiences, trauma, stressful situations, the nature of my relationships, even pre-memory, early things that I went through, all of that is stored in my subconscious. And we primarily have two types of memory: implicit and explicit memories. So everything that happened in the first 2 to 3 years of your life was stored as implicit, meaning it's just implied, it's just in there. We're going to talk about in a second how that's just unthought knowns. How I just know it to be true, and you don't have to think about it. It's just true, and you just react to it. Implicit memory is also stored from very stressful, overwhelming events, traumatic events, things like that. Think about someone that's in war and they come back and it's just an implicit reaction, implicit memory about that causes that reaction, to the startle reaction, because it's just so deeply ingrained that I don't have to even process it. Explicit memories would be those that I have a story with, that I actively recall, that I can intentionally recall, or when it's being triggered, I can say, oh, this is from, and I can tell the story of where it's from. Implicit memories are more deeply stored from early childhood and stressful traumatic events, where they're more deeply stored, but are oftentimes more impactful. Oftentimes I'll have people that say, oh, that, this happened, but they were only 2, so they won't remember. The problem is they'll remember more deeply, and won't have. So even if something happens, so like the example of someone from a war, it's stored implicitly, but they do have an explicit memory as well that they can work with and process. When you're really young, all you have is that implicit memory, and you don't have any recall of what happened or what caused that. And so we'll talk a little bit about how we manage that in a moment. But what essentially happens then, based on those experiences, based on that implicit memory, we develop this internal working model of how we see things. It determines how we interpret events, how we understand ourselves in relationship to others and in relationship to the world. How do I understand the world? Are other people safe? Is my world likely to give me what I need, or is it not? Those unthought knowns. It's just the working model is just that what's running under the surface all the time, how I see the world. And again, I don't need to think about it to know it's true in the sense that I've believed it to be true. And so if I've always been taught that I was worthless, I don't need to think, am I worthless or am I not worthless? I just know I'm worthless. Obviously I'm wrong, but I've internalized that from my past experiences. From that, that understanding of the world, understanding of myself, these unthought knowns, then I begin to have automatic thoughts. It's just like, those thoughts that you don't know where they come from in that moment, that I'm worthless. Oh, I'm not safe. Um, which then leads to, because I'm not, this is all happening under the surface, and then the thoughts come out, and then I become emotionally reactive to that situation. And then I begin to have behavioral responses or patterns that come from that. So one thing that maybe we can do is just, so this is happening for you, and it's important to look at that for yourself. And the stress model is very, very much for parents to understand their own stress, and how to manage that, and how to stay on that green path from that model. Um, but it also gives us an understanding of what's happening for our kids. And so maybe right now it'd be helpful to put in the comments section, just what are those triggers for your kids? What are those things that send them into their those implicit memories, and from their subconscious just get triggered into just being reactive, and having behavioral patterns? What are those triggers that you've kind of identified? Because that's going to give us clues as to what is going on in that deeper part of your child, that where that internal working model and implicit memories are, where they got these understandings from. So let's do that, and maybe we can read some of those as we get them. So managing the stress response. So you say, okay, so I have this stress response, and it's just it's implicit, it's subconsciously driven, it's more deeply stored than other memories. We can make the implicit explicit, meaning we can put some explicit, understanding to it, or create a story. I'll just give you an example. I was working with a kid that had gone through a trauma, potential sexual abuse situation when she was like 3 years old, and her parents they stopped it. They got her safe. It was like, it wasn't, we don't think, going on for a long period of time. And they just didn't share that with her. I thought, okay, she won't remember. And when she threw a pair of scissors at her brother and stuck it in the wall behind him, they brought her in for counseling. And as we kind of processed this and that came out, we had her kind of create a story for this. So what happened? What do we know? What are the pieces we do know? What can we imply from the circumstances? Sometimes if you have adopted kids, you may not know many of the circumstances, but you can imply things based on what they believe from it. Well, if you believe this, probably some things like this are happening. So you create sort of this story that goes with it. And what that does is it fills in, our story is kind of like, if I'm going along and then I have some chapters completely missing, or those chapters, from my, my story become like a horror story. And then I'm back to, okay, now I'm in an adopted family where they love me. I got these chapters that don't make sense. And I have a lot of implicit memories of that. I need to make sense of that story. So I need to first kind of come up with an understanding of what kinds of things happened, or what it was like for me. Then as I look at those chapters that I've now kind of put in and made an understanding of what that's there, then I can reframe the meaning of that, and understand that this happened and I thought it meant that I was worthless. But really, in understanding that story, it meant the people that were doing this to me felt worthless. And in doing so, I'm applying resources that I didn't have then. And if you still don't have the resources to do that, you can seek those out through relationships that you have, a pastor, a counseling relationship. A lot of what we do in counseling relationships is we help people develop a resourcefulness so they can go back to those stressful situations and those traumas, and be able to use our current resourcefulness to be able to understand that differently. What I didn't have in the moment, I can give myself now with my new relationships, my new understandings, my new faith in God, and that kind of thing. So managing that stress response in those ways, and getting to the point where I can walk by faith and not by sight. And as we kind of wrap up and lead into next week, where we're going to introduce this, we can look at this model just briefly, and understanding that if I can stay on that green path, so what my implicit memories and this internal working model and all this reactivity does is it sends me down the right path here where fear, reactivity, I go into my survival brain and I just begin to react and have just make foolish decisions based on, just what I'm feeling, push people away, get angry. Some people shut down. There's different types of reactions, but all of that leads to failure, creates limitations in my life. And all of that is walking by sight. And as we look at, in scripture, it talks about, I always like to look at Psalm 46 for some of this, that, God is our refuge and strength and present help in trouble. So and then it talks about mountains falling into the sea and waters roaring and foaming. That's what we see by sight. But God is my refuge when I stand in faith. And then it goes on and says that there is a river whose streams make glad the city of God. So there's like all of this chaos going around me, but God is my refuge. And there is a stream whose rivers make glad the city of God. And then it kind of goes on to more chaos that I see in my world. But then it says, cease striving and know that I am God. Right. So as I go through this, I can see the chaos, but if I'm walking by faith and developing that resourcefulness to handle my stress responses, I can walk in a more secure place, walk in love. I can make wise choices. I can begin to be successful, and I can begin to open up the possibilities. And we're going to outline that model more in depth next week. So we hope you can join us then, and we'll be having that whole course available to you then. I don't know, Kevin, you want to take a break? And is there any comments that people were making about the stress responses that we want to maybe talk about briefly? You're muted.
Yeah, it looks like there's they're not necessarily questions, but things maybe you could speak to a bit. It seems like there's a lot of like separation anxiety, uh, that they see that stress response, going to daddy's house for a monthly visit,
Mm,
going to school, or when someone's leaving to go on a business trip, which are all, those are all massive triggers.
mm.
Um, how would you kind of wrap the stress model around that?
Yeah, so they're going into that stress response, that separation, and just go into that reactivity, down that red path. And it's hard for us to understand that, because rationally we can say, well, I'll be back, or you'll be back. We'll be back together. So some things you can do to give them what they don't have in that moment is some of that assurance that they think this is forever. They think I'm never going back. I just had a kid that was going to a different school, so separating from her school, going to like a partial hospitalization, and they were having all this reactivity and all this arguing and fighting, and we kind of uncovered that she thought she was going there forever, like for her in her brain, because she has this idea that I left my birth parents and it was forever. I'm leaving my school and it's forever. So they have these automatic kind of thoughts, these understandings of what that's like. And so sometimes you can do things to again kind of put that resourcefulness in there for them, and plan that, hey, when I pick you up, we're going to do X, Y, or Z. We're going to plan a reunion. We're going to do this, or I'm going to give you something that I need you to bring back to me so we can do such and such, or some way of helping them integrate that with the bigger picture that they're not able to see kind of in their reactivity. And the key is, and as we get into the stress model next week, no matter how reactive they get, as long as you can stay secure and grounded, and be empathetic, you will be feeding into their stress world your resourcefulness, the calmness, the empathy, the understanding. We're going to plan our reunion when I get back, and here's what we're going to do. And you kind of are bringing your resourcefulness into their reactive world, and helping counteract those ideas that aren't that are true in their understanding, because that's all they've known, but are not true in a more objective way.
Yeah. Yeah, we had Deanna on Facebook say that bugs for her 7-year-old. Even a fly sends into like a massive.
Oh, bugs. Okay, I didn't understand. Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah. How would you speak to that stress model?
Wow. That's a real interesting one. Okay. Um,
Always
you
like
know
the
that
first.
that
I'm sure you'll know
that
how.
would be that's a little more difficult to understand. What's the what's the I guess genesis of that? Like, where did that come from? That's tough. So sometimes if you don't know, you really can't. Oh, this makes sense because you've been abandoned before and you think you're going away and you're not coming back, etc. You may not, it might be something like that where you don't have a real understanding of where that came from and what that story was, right? Or you can't even imply that too much. Um, but what you can do is you can stay grounded, you can stay secure, let them know that you have it handled. Just like when a baby cries, that they're stressed out, and you stay grounded, and sometimes you have no idea why they're crying. All you can do is let them know that you're there and that you have it under control, and eventually they regulate to you. So in a situation like that, just being able to stay grounded and, oh, I can handle this, not in a way that makes them feel like they're bad because they can't, but just in a, what, I'm glad I can be here to handle this for you. I take pride in being able to be the bug squasher. I thank you for letting me be your rescuer, kind of creating that type of story, because you don't know where it's from, but you can create kind of that story where you're connected to them around that, and they're allowing you to protect them and thank them for that and that kind of stuff. And hopefully that'll eventually kind of calm that stress response, because they know someone is there to handle that, and they don't need to react, because all they need to do is go to the person that handles that, and that person takes pride in handling that for them and can handle that in an effective way. And that would apply to a lot of things where we wouldn't understand where it's coming from.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Way to answer that one.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
Give me the bug question right off the bat here, Kevin.
So one of
Challenging me.
I'll give you another one. Maybe this one's easier. I'm not sure. But Sheila on Facebook says that both of her little ones have episodes of puking after
Oh,
visiting dad.
oh my.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more common than you might think. Just that kind of it's just a stress response. It's like the body kind of, okay, now I can let it all out. Now I can um, just express this, and their body is just a physiological response to that. Um, it's hard without knowing the whole circumstance with dad and how cooperative he is. My guess is maybe not so much cooperative, but trying to, if you can kind of coordinate, more frequent kind of conversations while they're at dad's and that kind of stuff. Um, never shaming or treating it like a behavior that they need to stop it, being able to, just accept that that's kind of where they're at with this, and how hard that is, and accepting it. Sometimes just really, normalize, say, this is, a lot of kids when they get stressed, that's kind of how they handle that, normalizing that a little bit, taking the edge off that. Because a lot of times kids might, on top of that, they feel, they can feel ashamed, or like, I'm different, or why is this happening to me? So sometimes you can normalize something like that, can reduce that. And again, just letting them know that you, hey, if this is what we do, we can handle it. I got this. I got you covered. We're going to do this. Then try to do some things to, to mitigate that by, maybe some more conversations while they're at dad's, sending something with them to remind them of you that that they can hold on to, giving them a special thing, a special stuffed animal that is just their comfort when they go to dad's. And really that's the purpose of it, is this is kind of me going with you, and this is there to keep you safe, or help you feel safe, and that kind of thing. But that's a challenging one. That really is.
Yeah. What do you do? And again, this isn't a question, but someone says that, they see responses with stores, like particularly gas stations and grocery stores.
Oh, they react to that particular type of store?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I asked a follow-up question of just, if they knew why, or any other thoughts on that. I haven't heard back yet, but if that's something.
Well, I mean, the assumption I would have is whatever it is about that, it could be a smell, a sight, something reminds them of a trauma. And so we can kind of, depending on how old the child is, you might be able to process that to some degree that, this might not make sense to us, but in some way it makes sense to, based on what happened, there's something that's triggering this, and there's something that makes sense, even if we don't quite understand what it is. And so, just kind of putting those pieces together that this must be triggering something for you, and that's okay. And, getting them to kind of be a little more aware. So what happens when we're really reactive like that is we go into our survival brain where we're not really reflecting on our experience. We're not really able to discuss much about that. So first you have to kind of say, there's some reason this makes sense. Something is triggering you because something is bringing back something that was really hard for you. And that makes sense. And kind of de-escalating some of that emotional reactivity, and then helping them reflect on that. Can you help me with that? And some of this brings in the dance model that we've talked about a lot of times. I'm not sure how many of you were here for the dance model or have downloaded that, but kind of just helping them get to the point where they can reflect on their experience. Well, it feels sort of like this. And I get it starts when when I see it here, getting them to reflect on that and then being able to process that a little bit, that, okay, based on what their reflection is, we can add some more pieces to that. Well, it feels this way, so maybe it's triggering something that was like this, and begin to fill in the gaps. You have to be creative and do some detective work with some of that, because unless for sure that there was a specific trauma that happened around that, you're probably not going to know what is triggering that.
That's great. I think that's all the comments that I'm seeing.
Okay. You want to jump into talking about the courses and programs and stuff, and then we'll come back to more questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I'd say is, well, I'm going to unpack a little bit of this for you. So if you're on Facebook Live, or if you were in the chat and you're thinking through this, or you've got some specific questions that relate to the stress model, go ahead and start typing them in now. And then as they populate, we'll make sure we'll take the next 15 minutes here and try to get to as many questions as we can. So we'd love to do that. So I'm going to drop a couple of things into the chat for you. Let me pull open my note where that is at. The Pay What You Want dance model and the ebook should be in there. I'm going to put them in one more time, just so that you can find them all in one comment there. But essentially, what we're showing you here is the stress model. But dance, and if you've been here before, you've heard this before, but essentially it's this 8-video series that we have that walks you through one of the strongest tools in our trauma-based Christian parenting tool belt, to be able to really interact with your kids well in moments where those stress triggers are high. And it teaches you how to figure out what's triggering you, and then also how to dance with yourself as you're dancing with your child. And so it's a great tool, but it's just one of our tools. And we have that as a pay what you can afford model. It's a $97 course. There's downloads. You can, and once it's yours, you can download the video, you can download the audio, and it's yours forever. But it's our way of just like allowing you to experience, hey, how does trauma-based Christian parenting work? What are they doing? And then just so you know, by next week, we are going to have a stress model course. in a pay what you can afford model as well. So be on the lookout for that. There will be emails on that. We're going to have that up on our website. It's going to be everywhere, so you can get your hands on that stress model course. Again, that's going to be another series of videos that you're going to be able to download, keep, take on the road with you, listen to in the car, wherever you're at. And then that's yours forever. But just another thing. So, and also if you're a current trauma-based Christian parenting member, you will immediately get access to this once it's inside the membership course. That'll be yours as well. And then also our comprehensive program. As you notice, if you're part of the comprehensive program, as soon as we build a new module that's more detailed or has piece parts, it's yours automatically. You buy in once, it's yours forever. And this includes all of our 10 modules. So the dance module is one of them. The stress module is one of them. And there are 8 other modules that we use to kind of have this complete parenting tool belt. Now, what's important to know about this program is that it's not just, you're not just trying to come up with what's the formula to be a better parent to my kid. We're actually teaching you a set of practices and really this complete comprehensive shift in mindset so that you can use these tools more effectively. And so what makes this distinctive from, say, this stress model thing we're talking about, the dance model? The complete comprehensive program offers a lot of really big things. The first is that it gives you real-time support. So we have a members Facebook page, a members only Facebook page that you get access to. And you get to go in there and go, hey, I've got this issue with my kid, right? Some of you have said, like, I don't know what to do. My kid, kind of panics at gas stations and I'm not really sure why. I promise you there's a parent in that group right now who's experienced that, and that's stuff you can get feedback on right away. Or you'll have other parents chime in and go, oh, we tried this and this worked, or there was this book we read that was really meaningful to us. And you get to talk to all these other trauma-based Christian parenting experts that know the language, but also been through what you've been through. On top of that, Steve does some weekly Zoom coaching calls. So these are like mass training calls. We're trying to just give you like small pieces and tools. Those are more individualized. Those you get to focus a lot more on your specific individual story and kind of get some more of that personalized care. And then you also get lifetime access. So I've seen, we have had ages tonight, kids on the call from 2 to 17. And so as you know, as your children are progressing, those things will change. You might get the hang of this and you might take a year where you've just been all in and you're nailing it, and your 5-year-old, you know what triggers them, gets them. And then they hit 13 and the hormones go and you're like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? So once you buy, you have lifetime access, it's yours forever. And it's organic, so it's always growing. So one of the things is, one of those piece parts is the stress model that will be added to that again. Once you buy in, you're in. You never pay again. It's a one-time fee. You get coaching for lifetime that you can use anytime you want. And so it's always growing, always evolving. And this is right now designed to eventually be a $9.97 course. And with this extra edition of this model, we're getting closer to that. But paying once, you'll never pay again. And so that coaching offer we're giving this will be up through Monday night at 11 p.m. There will be $100 off of our $697 program. So it's going to be $597. Again, that includes coaching for a lifetime, access to all of the program for a lifetime, all additional models and modules that get added. And there's also payment plans available with that. There's a 3-month, a 6-month, and a 12-month. And all you need to do is just email me and I can get you that. So I'm going to drop my email in the chat as well. But you can reach out to me and be happy to set one of those up for you. Just make sure to do that before Friday so that I can get those to you. And then with that, we're also including this bonus TCF program startup session with Steve. So this is probably the most valuable thing that we offer. It is a one-on-one assessment with Steve. You get to meet, go through the current impact on your family, the specific parenting needs for your unique family situation. Steve's going to map out some specific steps. He'll go, hey, probably want to hit modules 2, 4, and 6. That's where you're going to want to start. Obviously, you want to do all of them, but here's where I would start. And really give you direction how to utilize the program and maximize your immediate impact right off the bat, and really get you going fast. And then, as you know, we have a 90-day money-back guarantee. We can, we track how many hours you spend in each of the modules. And so if you've gone through at least 80% of them and you've joined for 3 coaching calls and you're just like, hey, Steve, this isn't for me. This isn't for my family. Hey, we want to eliminate any of those inhibitions. We'll give your money back. No questions asked.
There you go. So we'd love to see, you guys continue to come to these free calls. We love helping you out. Our desire is to be able to offer for any different level that people are ready to jump in. We can't do everything for free, but we love doing these. The pay what you can afford. Those courses are $97 courses. If you can afford that, it helps us be able to continue to offer that to people that pay what you can afford. Other people, if you can't, that's great. No questions asked. And then for those that are ready for something more and really need that comprehensive program or ready to jump into that, and you may be kind of like, well, I want to hear more. Well, keep coming to these. Get one of those pay what you can afford courses. If you really like, man, this is something I really need, then we'd love to have you in the program and see you real soon on those coaching calls in the program where we can really get down to business with that. But we don't have a whole lot of time left, but we'd love to dialogue and answer any more questions. We'll try to keep those to, the content that was discussed, the program and what we offer in the program, and, maybe the dance model, the things that everyone has access to. Sometimes, a question will be like, well, I need to teach you the entire program in order to answer that question. And we can't really do that tonight, unfortunately, but things pertaining to what we talked about tonight, as well as things about the program and hey, if I do the comprehensive program, what will this look like or what will that look like? We're happy to answer those. So fire away. What do we have on Facebook, on Zoom? Happy to answer those questions for you now.
Yeah. So I got a question from Facebook from MJ here on Facebook. MJ says, how do you best deal with whining and perpetual questions? This happens when my son is very stressed or unsure. How do you be present to that well?
I think a lot of us can relate to that. And a lot of us can relate to that being a trigger that sends us out of being secure and into a place of reactivity, because sometimes it's just like, enough of this. But what your child is communicating to you there is that that they're struggling, and that they feel like they need constant attention. The problem with that is that most of what they're receiving from you when they're just constantly seeking that attention and whining and demanding and stuff like that, most of what they receive from you then really doesn't meet much of a need. What they really need is, the dance model is great for this, to be able to empathize. Is when I see you asking these questions and maybe sometimes the same questions, or being, kind of whining about things and being upset, tells me you're really struggling. Can you help me with that? Something's going on for you. The dance model is great for that. So I would, if you haven't already, get the ebook and even get the pay what you can afford dance course. That will be magic with some of that. And because it will also take it out of me having to answer enough questions so that the child will feel secure. There is no number in that kind of situation. There's no number of questions that you can answer that the child's gonna be like, okay, now I'm good, right? Now I'm satisfied. It's really coming from an insecurity. And it's almost, I describe it as kind of like if you have a bucket and you're trying to fill that up with water. It's like you're trying to fill your child up with security, but there's no bottom to that bucket. That's what your child's saying. I got a bucket, fill it up, and it's just going out the bottom, because it's just perpetual over and over again. So what we teach in the program is how to create a bottom to that bucket, right? So that whenever you do pour into them, it lands. And we can't do that by just pretending like we're going to eventually be able to fill up a bottomless bucket. So we dance with them, we help them reflect on that you're struggling. How can I meet that real need as opposed to their perceived need? Their perceived need is, I need an answer to 1,000 questions. Their real need is they need to feel connected, and they need to have a bottom put on that bucket. So the dance model would be fantastic for that.
Yeah. Great. Oh, that's really helpful. Margaret Watkins on Facebook as well. She says, "What do I do when I blow it and get angry at the child's tantrum? How can they trust me? And how do I recover from that?"
Sometimes those are the best moments. We think that, we beat ourselves up a lot as parents. But and I will even intentionally kind of let them take me down that path. I'll start to go down that path, and then I'll be like, oh, wait a second. I'm doing that again. I'm getting off track with you, and I'm so sorry. I don't want to do that. And then, so essentially, I'm kind of catching myself on the red, and sometimes I'll just kind of play that up like I am on the red, even if I'm not, and just kind of, the red path that we haven't really fully gone into, but we introed tonight. And then I'll move over to the green, and it's like, because kids, when they're in that reactivity, it's almost like they want you to react with them. And so it's like when you start reacting and you start getting upset, there's somewhere in their subconscious, like, I'm in control. I got you. And so sometimes it's even more impactful when you're like, hold on a second. I do this a lot, and I'm so sorry, but I started just kind of getting upset with you, and I'm sorry. And it really throws them, because they think they have you, and then you pull them out of it. It's almost like you pull them out of it too, a lot of times. So that is not a loss at all. You have not lost anything. You just, whoa, time out. I'm doing that again. I don't want to do that. I apologize. You come back to being secure, come back to the green path that we're going to talk about more in depth next week. And it really kind of pulls them out of like, wait, what just happened? So that's a perfect time to show them that repair, on the fly kind of repair, that I messed up, I repaired it in the moment. And that's a relational tool that they need to see. So that's good.
That's great. What do you do with disagreements over electronic devices?
Throw them in the garbage. the electronics, not the kids. Just kidding. Don't throw either in the garbage. Man, electronics are one of the techniques we teach in the program is that if kids are disagreeing, fighting over something, it's just communication, right? They're just communicating to us. What are they communicating to us? They're communicating to us that they're not ready for that. And I take a grounded, secure position that I'm completely okay with that. If you're not ready for this, that's fine. We just won't do that for a while, and then they might melt down, and that's okay. Then you dance with that. But the key is for you to stay grounded and not react. And they're just communicating with you, and you're listening, and that actually empowers them, because when you're just hearing their communication and you're saying, that's okay if you're not ready for that. And we'll try again in a day or 2 days or whatever your time period would be. And if you're ready, then we can keep doing this. And I'm okay either way. I don't need you to have electronics, although I really do want you to, because I care about you and I know you like it, and it helps you go do things. And I might not say this, but it gets you out of my hair sometimes. And so you just you stay grounded, you stay secure. They're communicating, you're listening, you give them an opportunity, if they want to communicate something different in the future. And if they don't, that's okay. And so that's how you stay grounded and secure while they're losing their mind. So what else we got?
We have one. Karen here in Zoom is asking, I think it was more, she was commenting on something, but I think it's important to speak to. But what do you do when, hey, I've said no, I've as a parent, and that leads to throwing things, hurting your siblings. Now they're punishing me, the parent, for saying no. How do you navigate that?
With any kind of thing like that, just an immediate kind of meltdown reaction. Our tendency as parents is to try to fix that, try to stop it. And there are some things that we have to stop, like some of the things you're talking about there. I'm not going to let you hurt someone. And that's going to be my priority, is I'm going to get everyone safe. If, you and I need to go and, go outside, go into a room, everyone else go downstairs, go wherever. I'm going to do whatever I can, first and foremost, to protect everyone. If the child is physically able to hurt you, you need to protect yourself as well. And there are times where kids need to be they need to go somewhere for a while till they can be safe at home. Hopefully we're not dealing with that level. But the idea of them punishing you, other than if they're big enough to physically hurt you, a lot of times kids are punishing parents by just making things miserable. What I do in that situation is that I don't let them, that they don't get to control me like that. They don't get to punish me. So in this situation, I just say, they're wanting me to be miserable with them. They're wanting to punish me. They're wanting to make me miserable. And I just take it as an opportunity to connect with them that, this, again, kind of dance with them that, you're really having a hard time here. And I just appreciate you letting me be with you during that time. And I'll sit with them and I'll let them be miserable and not need to fix it. So if I need them to be okay in order for me to be secure, then they can control me. If I don't need them to stop, then I can be grounded and I can be like, you know what, I'm just going to sit here with you. As long as you want to do this, I'm going to be here for you. And then we can, once they calm down, we can have a conversation that, that this is taking us away from being able to do anything else. And sometimes I'll do things like, this was really super important for me to be here for you. And I sat here with you while you were really miserable. And that was hard for you, but I was here for you. And now my time is also important. And so we're going to go do something together, and just so kind of a connecting kind of consequence, if you will. But yeah, the first thing is to protect everyone involved, and then to not allow them to make you miserable. If you really reframe that to being, I'm here for them when they need me, and just sitting there with them as they are miserable, it really becomes a connection, because whenever a kid throws a tantrum for an hour and then I thank them for allowing me to walk with them through that difficult time, you see how that just reframes the whole experience. Now they didn't control me, I connected with them. They're trying to push me away, make me miserable, and make me fight so that they're in control. And instead of giving them that, I gave them a connecting experience. And I